This will be the first video in a tutorial in how to use Oasis Montaj for gravity processing with the end product of a complete bouquet. But before we even get into the software itself, we need to organize our GPS data and our gravity data. The gravity data that we acquired was used using a CG6 gravimeter, and so that's what we're going to be working with in terms of data. So the first thing is you're going to want to have a folder, set up your folders in a way that you'll know where things are, and that you'll be able to access them quickly and that it makes sense. So I have this thing here, USGS Louis, which is who is the professor who is running the operation. And then I have all my subfolders here of things that I'll need throughout the process. Everything that I got from the professor went into this raw file, and I have it sequentially subdivided where then I can access everything else. So if I go, let's just say July 10th, here I have my triple data, and this is the raw file, and that is something that I'm not going to modify. This is how I got it, and this is how I am going to keep it. And whenever I want to modify this, because we're going to want to modify this, you're going to save it as a different copy, so as a CSV or whatever other kind of file type you want to work with, or whatever's compatible with the software. In this case, you're going to want it in a CSV file so that you can import it to Oasis Montaj and have it read the headers and organize the data as you need. Once you save that file as something you're wanting to edit, you just save it the same thing, but I just take off the raw in the file name. And so this one is the one that I'm going to, well, this is the one that I've parsed down into the format that we need. So I have my station number, X, Y, Trimble, which is the same thing as the elevation, and the vertical error or displacement shown on the Trimble when we measure the GPS. So that's pretty much the format of all of these. So I don't really touch these once they're modified. After that, I move these or copy these files into the Oasis Montaj USGS project. Then I have it further subdivided into other things we need. You don't have to worry about those yet. And I put them into Trimble and Grav data. And from here, they're separated further. I have my base station, which you'll just get from whoever's providing your data, and you're going to be using this GDB, and that's pretty much what we're basing our drift and our observed and measured gravity off of. So this is a completely necessary file to keep track of because you're going to use it once we start importing. The Trimble data here, and I still have it in a sequential list here, but this is just all the Trimble data that I've copied over, that I've modified and parsed down to the data that is usable. Also in the other raw file, oops, we'll click on the same one. I have this text document. The CG6 has different file types. There's a DAT file, which is just the CGS dump file. We don't, or at least I haven't worked with the DAT file. I get the data in a text file, which will show up here, and this gives all the information that's recorded when you're out in the field. And then we import it to the computer, get it as a text file, and then this is in a usable format that Oasis Montaj can use. So that's kind of what that's all about. Just like the GPS and Trimble data, you're going to want to save this, and you're never going to modify this. So if you ever need to come back, you have it in the original format, and you'll save it or save as still as a text document, but just here. So if you do change it, or you make a mistake, or you don't know what happened, you can always go back to the raw, change the raw again, but then make a save as. We're never modifying our raw files in any way, and we're always wanting to keep those separate from files we're going to modify or change or tweak or whatever, in order to know that we can always reprocess from the original data if we make a mistake somewhere. So that's kind of the basic setup, is making sure that we have everything organized and we're not messing with the raw data. So I think that is about it for making sure the files and data we're working with are in a usable format for Oasis Montaj. Now the steps really for, which I guess I should have done before, is what are we modifying from the raw data to get it to a usable format in Oasis Montaj. So if we go back here, we go to the raw data, and I'll just open up, let's see, we'll just do the last one, June 27th. And this is every Trimble reading that was output from the GPS. So this isn't necessarily everything that was collected from June 27th, 2023. This looks like it was collected from many days and wasn't cleared out in between uses, which is fine, because along with getting your data files, you're also going to get field notes. So there's a separate file for that, which I just label references. I have field notes. I know that I'm looking at June 27th, so I'll look at June 27th, and that is when I will pull up these. And it looks like I collected this with Odessa, who is somebody else who's working on the project. And these are the same, so it looks like it's only one page worth of notes. So what you're going to do is you're going to cross-reference anything that is in our field notes from when we were out in the field, and that's how you're going to parse down the data in your spreadsheet here. These 9,000 values, which are in the field notes but aren't in the Trimble, is because we don't use the Trimble on our 9,000 stations, which are our opening and closing of loops, which just means we go to a known station or point. In this case, it's on the UNR campus, and we take a gravity measurement for reference for open and closing to make sure that our tide and drift corrections are taken into account. But you won't see it in the Trimble data because we don't use the Trimble for the opening and closing, because it's purely for getting data from a known point. From there, you're just going to look at the first station that we took for the day, which was 233. And so we're going to go down to 233 here, and 233 here. So everything above that isn't data that we need, or you would just copy and paste this into a new sheet. The headers are important because that is when you import into Oasis, you're going to need your station, you're going to need your X, you're going to need Y, Trimble, and this is called Trimble, whoops, Zer, which we don't actually use, but it's in there just for reference. And then you're going to copy your. Oh, did I not? I guess I didn't actually copy it. There we go. Perfect. This is when you would save or save as. I like to save 2 copies. I save one in the native format Excel workbook. That's mostly so that it auto saves if I change or modify or do anything to the workbook itself. And then I save a separate copy as CSV UTF-8. And then that one does not autosave. So if I make any changes in there, I have to consciously save any changes, which I don't typically do because once I get the data to where I want to use it, it usually stays in that way. Not to get too many files, so I'm not actually going to save this thing that I created. So no, I don't want to save it. And then you're going to do the same thing with this, with the graph data here. You're going to go through and you're going to make sure that any of the data that we have is erroneous or unneeded or whatever. And typically, what we'll do here is if we get graph measurements that are outside of our working parameter. So if I look at these two, we can see these are okay, but you're looking for any, you're comparing station numbers. So these 3 stations here, for example, 240, this one here, 3633.40 is kind of outside of what we'd consider usable. And so I'd go through and delete this value out because it's outside of 3 microgals. So that's kind of what we're working with here is plus or minus 3 microgals, which 0.40 is well outside of the range where 3661 and 3654 are within 3 microgals of each other. So I would delete this, and then you can go through. Let's see, anything with more than 2 repeats, you'll probably want to go through and see because you can see we have 0.08, 0.07, then 0.13, and 0.12. And again, you'd refer to your field notes, if I can find them again. Make sure you're in the right date. See, this is the wrong date. So you go back, open your file, go to your reference, make sure you're looking at 10th of July. Which isn't there. So cool. One five three two four zero. Anyway, I'm not going to waste time with that. But yeah, that's pretty much what you do in this case. Look for graph station repeats that have more than 2 station accounts, because if we have just 2, that means that we had repeats that are within our set parameters. If we had something like this, you can see 235, we have 4 repeats, and that's because we weren't able to get solid data on the first 2, so we took more until we were getting usable data. And again, from there you would just refer to your field notes, which for whatever reason I don't have July 10th field notes, which maybe Chris never sent me, which would make sense. Okay. I I can't think of anything that you need to do now that in prep. So